Hi viewers, this is Madhu Dharmapuri. Welcome back to our channel Passionate About Physics. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe and watch the videos uploaded on the channel. So in this present video lecture, I am here to explain photoelectric effect, which is very important phenomenon which was discovered in late 19th century. What is photoelectric effect? Basically, it is the phenomena in which the electrons are emitted from metal surface when a light of sufficient energy is incident upon a metal surface. The electrons are emitted from the metal surface when a light of sufficient energy is incident upon it. So basically electrons are emitted. How they are emitted? When you supply or when you give some external energy in the form of light energy to the metal surface. So this is photoelectric effect. But before we go into the details of this, first let us see the possibilities of emission of electrons from the metal surface. What are the various possible methods of emitting electrons from the metal surface? So emission of electrons For example, consider a metal or a conductor in which some free electrons are there which are randomly moving at room temperature and they are not leaving the surface of the conductor because of the attraction of positive charges. But if you want the electrons to come out of the metal surface, you have to supply a minimum amount of energy to the metal surface so that the electron can come out of it. The minimum required energy which can cause the electron emission from the metal surface is called as work function. What is work function? The minimum energy required which can cause the electron emission is called as work function. What is this? This is work function. This is denoted with W. And this liberation of electrons from the metal surface arises from different sources of energy like heat energy, like light energy or electrical energy. So depending on the what type of source of energy is used to liberate the electron from the metal surface, we have various possible methods of emission of electrons. One of the possible methods to emit the electron from the metal surface is thermionic emission. Thermionic emission. In this process or in this method, the heat energy is given to the metal, and if the energy of that the energy which we are giving to the metal surface is sufficient enough, which is more than the work function, then the electrons would come out of the metal surface by absorbing that heat energy. And the electrons which are emitted from the metal surface due to the supply of heat energy is called thermions. And this process of emitting electron from metal surface is called thermionic emission. Okay, so in this basically what happens, the minimum energy required for the electron emission is in the form of heat. In the form of heat. So electrons are there in a metal surface and the electrons are ejected from the metal surface when you supply heat energy to the metal. And these electrons are called thermions. And the process of emission of electrons in this method is called thermionic emission. And remember, for the ejection of electron, the energy required is always greater than the work function. And work function is actually a property of metallic surface. It depends on metallic surface. So for different metals, the work function is different. For example, cesium metal may emit an electron for at some required energy, and sodium metal may emit an electron at some other energy. So work function would be different for different metallic surfaces. So it is a purely property of a metallic surface. It depends on metallic surface. And for the ejection of electron from metal, the energy required should be greater than work function always. And depending on the form of or source of energy that you are giving to the metal surface, we have different possible methods of emission of electrons. The first one we have seen, it is thermionic emission. Okay, and the second possible method of emission of electron is field emission. Field emission. So in this what we do is, a metal surface is placed in an external electric field. External electric field. For example, this is a metal in which electrons are there. This is placed in external electric field. This is plus charge and minus charge, and the direction of the electric field is always from plus charge to minus charge, and the metal is placed in it, which means electric field is applied to the metal. And beyond a certain value of the electric field, what would happen is dielectric breakdown will happen. Some of the electrons are attracted by this side and electrons are repelled by this side. And remember, the force acting on this metal surface is, or force acting on these electrons is in this way. And this is a force of attraction. The electrons are getting attracted towards this positive charge. The force acting on this is E, the magnitude. where E is the charge of the electron. Where E is the charge of the electron and capital E is the electric field applied. So the force acting on the electron is in the opposite direction to the applied electric field direction. And the dielectric breakdown will happen beyond a certain limit of electric field application, and the electrons would start coming out of the metal surface. So this is another method of emission of electrons by the application of electric field. And the next possible method for emission of electron is secondary emission. What is this emission method? So in this method of emission, a metal surface is hit by or bombarded by a high energy particle like electron or any other particle. So when we bombard the metal with high energy particle or high energy electrons, then the electrons would come out of the metal surface. So this method of emission of electrons is called secondary emission. And the fourth kind of method of emission of electrons is photoelectric emission. This is what we are studying in this lecture actually. Photoelectric emission. What happens in this case? The source of energy for the ejection of electron here is light. So when a light of a sufficient energy is incident upon the metal surface, the electrons are coming out of it. When the energy that you are supplying to the metal surface is greater than the work function, the minimum energy required for the liberation of electron from the metal surface is called work function. And if the energy that you are supplying to the metal surface is greater than the work function, then the electrons are coming out of the metal surface. And here, if the source of that energy is light, then that method of emission of electron is called photoelectric emission. So what happens here? If this is a metal in which electrons are there and you are supplying the light radiation, that is light radiation is falling on the metal surface and electrons are ejected from it, if the frequency or energy is sufficient only when the frequency of the light or energy of the light is sufficient enough and energy is more than the work function, then the electrons are ejected from the metal surface. And in this case, the electrons are called photoelectrons. The ejected electrons are called photoelectrons, just like the ejected electrons in the case of thermionic emission are called thermions. Here, the ejected electron is due to the light source. That is why the ejected electron is called as photoelectrons. Photo is a term related to light. And in this lecture, this is what we are going to study. how photoelectrons are emitted, and what is photoelectric effect, and what are the characteristics of it. That is what we are going to study in this lecture. So till now, hope you have understood how electron is ejected from a metal surface and what are the possible ways of emitting electron and how they are classified based on the source of energy to liberate the electron. Right? So photoelectric effect is one of the method, photoelectric emission is one of the method of emitting electron from a metal surface. And that phenomenon is called as photoelectric effect, in which electrons are emitted from a metal surface when sufficient energy is, when the light of sufficient energy is incident upon it. So who discovered this first? It was documented in 1887 by Hertz. Later it was also documented by Leonard in 1902. These are the two scientists who documented photoelectric effect in the late 19th century by Hertz and in the early 20th century by Leonard. But the problem with their results were they could not explain their results with the help of wave theory of light. They have taken the wave theory of light to explain this photoelectric effect, but they were unsuccessful in explaining it. They were unsuccessful in explaining the results that they have got for the discovery of photoelectric effect. What they did first, they used ultraviolet light onto the zinc plate. They allowed ultraviolet light to fall on zinc plate, and they have detected the electron ejection from the zinc plate, and that is what photoelectric effect they named. But with the help of wave theory of light, they could not explain successfully what they could observe. How they were unsuccessful in explaining photoelectric effect with the help of wave theory? That we will see now. The wave theory of light was unsuccessful to explain photoelectric effect, and in what way it failed to explain photoelectric effect, that we see now. So according to wave theory, the first point is, according to wave theory of light, the energy of the light, according to wave theory I am talking, the energy of the light increases with the intensity of light. How it increases? Because according to wave theory, energy of the wave is uniformly distributed across the wavefront, which means that if the intensity of the light is increased, the energy of the light will increase according to wave theory. But the observed fact was the energy cannot be increased by increasing intensity of light. This is one of the failures. According to wave theory, energy is uniformly distributed across wavefront hence energy can be increased by increasing intensity of light. This is what wave theory says. But the observed fact is wave theory says this. The observed fact is the energy is independent of intensity of light. The energy is independent of intensity of light. This is what observed. And the next failure of wave theory attribution to explain photoelectric effect is any frequency of incident light can cause the electron emission. Any frequency of incident light can cause the electron emission. This is according to wave theory. But the observed fact is, for this, only when a light has a certain minimum frequency which is called as threshold frequency, then only that light can eject the electron from the metal surface. So there exists a certain minimum frequency for the light, incident light, which is called as threshold frequency. Then only the ejection of electron is possible. This is observed fact. But what wave theory says, any frequency of incident light can cause the electron emission. This is one of the failures. Right? The observed fact is only the incident light with frequency greater than or equal to threshold frequency can emit electron. Okay, only incident light with frequency greater than or equal to threshold frequency can emit electron. There exists certain minimum frequency for the incident light which can cause the electron emission, below which the electron ejection is not possible. So this is observed fact, which was failed to explain by the wave theory. And the third failure of wave theory is let me wipe off this. Third one, since the energy of the light depends on the intensity of light according to wave theory, then even a low intensity light can cause the electron emission with a time gap. I mean, if I can allow the low intensity light onto the metal surface for a sufficient or enough time so that electron can acquire that energy and can come out of it according to wave theory, because what wave theory is saying, energy is depending on intensity of light, which means low intensity of light is having low energy. Now if I allow this low intensity of light onto the metal surface to fall on, the electron is actually getting some low energy, but it can acquire sufficient energy after some time so that it can come out of it with a time gap. But the observed fact is the ejection of electron from the metal surface is spontaneous. Once you allow the light to fall on the metal surface, immediately the electron will come out of it. There is no time gap. It is almost less than 10 power minus 8 seconds. This is observed fact. But wave theory says even low intensity of light can cause the electron emission when it is allowed to fall on the metal surface, and electron would get sufficient energy after some enough time, then it can come out, but which is not observed. Right? So this is the third failure. Since the energy of intensity of light or incident light depends on intensity, low intensity light can emit the electron from metal surface after getting sufficient energy in enough time. But the observed fact is electron emission from metal surface is spontaneous. These are the failures of wave theory to explain photoelectric effect. The observed facts or observed results of photoelectric effect. And this failure was successfully resolved or explained by Einstein by considering the particle nature for the light with the help of Planck's revolutionary idea of particle nature of radiation. Einstein could successfully explain this photoelectric effect by using the particle nature of light. Right? So Einstein in 1905 could explain this effect successfully using particle nature of light. By the revolutionary idea of Max Planck, where radiation behaves like a particle. Energy is carried by a particle in the light, which is called as photon. A photon carries an energy equal to quantum. A quantum is the energy carried by a photon, according to Max Planck. So photon is the particle nature of the light which carries an energy, and that energy is called as quanta, is in the form of quanta, in the form of bundles, concentrated bundles. Whereas in the wave theory, the energy is distributed across the wavefront, and when the light is fall on the metal surface, since the energy is distributed across this wavefront, and the energy will be distributed over a surface area of the metal. But the particle nature of light says that the energy of light is carried by a particle called photon in the form of concentrated bundles, which is called as quanta. Okay, so this photon, which is the particle nature of light, was very, very helpful to explain this photoelectric effect, which was done by Einstein in 1905. So before we read or before we discuss how Einstein could successfully explain this photoelectric effect by using the particle nature of light, which is photon, let us try to know some basic properties of photon. Okay, so what is photon and what are the basic properties of photon? That let us try to know first. Then we will see how Einstein could successfully explain this photoelectric effect. And these photon properties are, you can say, the first property, it is a particle which carries energy or you can say it's a particle nature of light which carries energy, and every photon contains definite amount of energy. You can say this energy as quanta, definite amount of energy or momentum, and that energy is this much. Okay, and momentum you can say P equal to h by lambda. And this photon is, its rest mass is 0. Rest mass is 0. Rest mass of the photon is 0. And it travels with velocity of light in air or vacuum. It travels with velocity of light in air or vacuum, where it is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. And photon is a neutral particle without charge. The neutral particle having no charge. And it collides with matter particle like electron elastically, which means Pi equal to Pf and Ki equal to Kf, where K represents the kinetic energy and P represents the momentum. Momentum remains conserved and kinetic energy remains conserved in every elastic collision. And photon collides with a matter particle like electron or any other particle elastically, in which the momentum and kinetic energy is conserved. They are conserved. And most important point about the photon is upon increasing the intensity of light, the number of photons will increase, but the energy of each photon will remain same. Okay? So on increasing intensity of light, number of photons will increase. Number of photons will increase. But energy of each photon that is equal to E that we have taken here will remain same, which means that energy of the photon is independent of incident light intensity. If you increase the intensity of light, number of photons will increase, but the energy of each photon will not increase. That's what wave theory what it was talking about. The energy is depending on the intensity of light. But the observed fact was not that. Energy is independent of intensity of light. That is what this. The energy of the photon is independent of intensity of light. If intensity of light is increased, the number of photons are getting increased. But the energy of each photon will remain same. How do you understand this? For example, consider two light sources of same wavelength. Let us say take some yellow bulb and two yellow bulbs. Take two yellow bulbs with same wavelength. Both are having same wavelength, emitting same wavelength light. And consider the first yellow bulb. This is one yellow bulb. This is also yellow bulb, which are emitting same wavelengths. Consider the first yellow bulb is at some 50 watt and the second yellow bulb intensity is 100 watt. The intensity of light in the second case is increased, which means the number of photons coming from this will increase like this. But whereas here, for the low intensity of light, the photons, number of photons will be little less. This is how you have to understand this statement. As you increase the intensity of incident light, the number of photons getting increased, but the energy of each photon will remain same. This is very, very important statement that we are going to use while explaining photoelectric effect. It was used by Einstein actually. Okay? So with the help of these photon properties, now let us try to see how Einstein could explain the photoelectric effect by using particle nature of light, which is photon, having an energy E equal to h nu. So what is photoelectric effect? This is the phenomenon in which electrons are emitted from a metal surface when a light of sufficient energy is incident upon it, which means the energy of the photon which is incident on the metal surface should always either greater than or equal to the work function of that metal. E greater than or equal to W. What is E? This is energy of photon which is incident on the metal surface is greater than or equal to work function. This is work function, which is a property of metallic surface. If this condition is satisfied, then electron emission is possible. So h nu is greater than or equal to W, or nu greater than or equal to W by H, and from this formula we can define threshold frequency nu naught. Threshold frequency nu naught as W by H, which is minimum frequency of photon which can cause electron emission. And from this above expression, nu is greater than or equal to W by H, we can also write nu equal to C by lambda, so that C by lambda is greater than or equal to W by H, 1 by lambda is greater than or equal to W by Hc, and lambda is less than or equal to W by Hc by lambda W. So from here I can define another limit of requirement for the photon in terms of wavelength to emit an electron, which would be equal to Hc by lambda. So this, also this, and this, these are important formulas. So what is this threshold wavelength? And which is maximum wavelength of photon, the maximum wavelength of photon beyond which electron emission is not possible. Beyond which electron emission is not possible. So what are the requirements for the ejection of electron? One is the energy of the incident photon should be greater than or equal to work function. And the next one is the frequency of the frequency of the incident photon should be greater than or equal to its threshold frequency. And the wavelength of the incident photon should be less than or equal to its threshold wavelength. So if either of these conditions are satisfied, then ejection of electron is possible. So ejection of electron is possible if either of these conditions are satisfied. What are they? E greater than or equal to W, or nu greater than or equal to W by H, that is threshold frequency, or lambda should be less than or equal to Hc by lambda, which is threshold wavelength, Hc by W, which is threshold wavelength. These are the conditions to be satisfied. Then only the ejection of electron is possible from the metal surface. So now we will see, using the particle nature of light, how Einstein could explain this. For example, if E is the energy of photon given to metal surface with E greater than or equal to W, then according to Einstein, what he said was, the energy that is supplied to the metal surface is utilized in two possible ways. Then it is utilized in two ways. One is to liberate some part of the incident photon energy is utilized to liberate an electron from metal surface, and that energy is, you can say, some part of incident photon energy is utilized to liberate an electron from metal surface, which is work function. And if any additional energy is still present in the photon after ejection of electron from the metal surface, then that remaining available energy, if any, of photon is utilized in giving kinetic energy to ejected electron. So by combining these 2 points, we can write that the energy that is given to the metal is equal to this. The K maximum means the maximum kinetic energy that can be acquired by the electron which is ejected from the metal surface. So this K maximum can be written as E minus W. Why we have written maximum here is the minimum energy required for the electron to be liberated from the metal surface is already utilized here, and the remaining portion of the energy is given to the electron in the form of kinetic energy, and this is the limit. Beyond this it cannot acquire the kinetic energy. That's why I am putting K maximum. K maximum equal to E minus W. So K maximum equal to E minus W. We know E equal to h nu, the energy of the photon, and work function as h nu naught, because we know that nu naught is the threshold frequency, which is equal to W by h. So by using these two expressions, I can write this as this. So W equal to h nu naught, and K maximum can be written as h nu minus h nu naught. And K maximum is also written as half mv square maximum, h nu minus h nu naught. This or this both is called as Einstein photoelectric equation. Einstein's photoelectric equation. This is very useful in understanding the explanation or the observed results of the photoelectric effect. Okay, it is clear from this picture that K maximum is proportional to the frequency of the incident photon, which means the kinetic energy of the ejected electron would depend on the frequency of the incident wave. If the frequency is more, then the kinetic energy acquired by the electron will be more. It is directly proportional to the frequency. This is very important. Now we will see simple experimental arrangement to understand all these points and try to know the characteristics of this photoelectric effect. How Einstein could explain the observations and what are the characteristics of this photoelectric effect. So for that, let me take a simple experimental setup. Where I have taken two plates. One is cathode, which is a metal plate, and the other one is anode. So this is emitter, this is collector. So cathode emits the eject electron. When the incident light falls on it, these are the photons. This is light radiation. And it is connected to some battery, external potential difference. Okay, some external potential difference. So what is happening here? When the light radiation having energy greater than or equal to W, frequency greater than or equal to nu naught, and lambda less than or equal to lambda naught. If either of these condition is satisfied for this light radiation, which is falling on the metal plate P, then electron is ejected from the metal plate. By utilizing the minimum energy required for the ejection of electron, which is work function. Right? So, in order to have the maximum kinetic energy for the ejected electron, we should prevent the collisions between plate P and plate Q, because if the electron is ejected from plate P and if it is trying to go towards plate Q, during its path, if electron collides with the particles present in the medium, and some kinetic energy acquired by the electron would be lost there because of the collision, and the kinetic energy of the ejected electron would get decreased. So to overcome this problem of decrease in kinetic energy due to the presence of collisions between P and Q, let us have a evacuated chamber, you can say vacuum chamber, in which PQ are placed so that the ejected electron will not collide with the particles, because there is nothing in the chamber, it is a free space. So this vacuum chamber is strictly used here to prevent the collisions and to prevent the loss of kinetic energy acquired by the electron. Okay, now the question is, the photon is incident on the metal surface, and if that photon energy is greater than the work function, the ejected electron is ejected from it, then where does it go? The ejected electron, where does it go? The answer for this is, for example, the electron which is ejected from this metal surface, if the potential on the plate Q and plate P is same, for example, there is no potential difference applied. Remember, here we have a galvanometer is also connected. The galvanometer presence will help us to confine the ejection of electron, because if the electron is ejected from the metal surface and reaches plate Q, which is nothing but flow of electrons, and flow of electrons is called as current flow, and that current flow is detected with the deflection of the galvanometer. So if you see the deflection in the galvanometer, that is because of the ejection of electron. So the ejection of electron is actually confined by the galvanometer deflection. If there is no light radiation falling on the metal plate, no electron is ejected and no electron is reaching plate Q, and no deflection is observed in the galvanometer. If deflection is observed in the galvanometer, that's definitely the current is flowing through the circuit, which is called as photoelectric current. Photoelectric current. Okay, so for now, for example, imagine the potential difference between plate P and plate Q is 0, and electron is ejected from the metal plate P by the incidence of photon with minimum energy required, which is greater than or equal to work function of that metallic surface. Then where would it go? If the maximum kinetic energy electrons will try to move towards the plate Q, because the electrons have acquired additional kinetic energy, then they try to move towards plate Q, but in a less number. For example, if 10 electrons are ejected from plate P, then at least 1 or 2 or 3 will move towards plate Q, one after the other or slowly. Then if another electron comes out from the metal surface by the incidence of photon, then this ejected electron will suddenly see the electron which was already emitted prior to this, and will experience a repulsion force between because of that electron's presence between plate P and plate Q. So the accumulation of negative charge between P and Q is possible which is called as space charge. Space charge. What is space charge? It is the total negative charge acquired between the plate P and plate Q because of these ejected electrons. Then how to overcome this space charge problem? So to overcome this space charge problem, what we do is the potential difference is increased between plate P and plate Q, and imagine if plus the positive plate Q is at higher potential with respect to the potential of plate P, then what would happen? The ejected electron which are having the negative charge will easily attracted by plate Q because of the higher potential on it, which is connected to battery positive terminal here. Then the electrons would easily attracted towards plate Q because of electrostatic attraction force. So that the space charge problem will get decreased. All the electrons which are ejected from the metal surface are attracted by plate Q, and there is no charge waiting between P and Q. There is no traffic jam of electrons between P and Q, and space charge problem is resolved. How it is resolved? By increasing the positive potential on plate Q with respect to plate P. The electrons can be easily traveled towards plate Q because of electrostatic attraction force between the electrons and the plate Q, which is anode, and all these electrons will move towards plate Q, and obviously the photoelectric current will flow through this wire, and galvanometer deflection will confirm that. The photoelectric current is the current flowing due to photoelectrons emitted from the metallic surface. Okay? Now what will happen? For example, if I increase the potential difference further, for example 10 electrons are emitted from the metal plate for a fixed intensity of incident light, and for a given metallic surface 10 electrons are emitted. And if you increase the positive potential on plate Q, the photoelectric current will increase because of the flow of these electrons towards plate Q, and after some time all the electrons which are emitted from plate P are attracted by plate Q, and there is no further electron left to attract, which means the photoelectric current will reach a saturation value, and we don't witness the further increase in value of photoelectric current. So even if you increase the positive potential on plate Q, the photoelectric current will not change, and it will become a saturated value because of the reason that there is no electron left to attract towards plate Q. All the electrons which are emitted by plate P were already attracted by plate Q, and further increase in positive potential on plate Q will not result in increase in the photoelectric current, which is saturated current. So this is about photoelectric current flowing because of flow of photoelectrons. And photoelectric current will reach a maximum value, which is called a saturated value, for a potential VQP with respect to plate P. If for higher values, if VQP is more, then if VQP is increased at a particular value of VQP, the photoelectric current would reach a saturation value, and further increase in photoelectric current is not observed. That is our photoelectric current. Now what we will see, as I said, according to Einstein photoelectric equation, some part of the photon energy is utilized to give kinetic energy to the ejected electron, which is maximum kinetic energy possible for the ejected electron. What is the proof for that? I mean, how to prove that the ejected electron has acquired kinetic energy? To prove this, what we do is simply change the battery terminals of this experimental setup so that a negative terminal is connected to anode and positive terminal is connected to cathode. So negative terminal is connected to anode. Now what would happen? A photon is incident on metal surface with a minimum energy greater than or equal to work function. Then electron is emitted from it. That is okay. Then if that ejected electron would go to which side? Because on plate Q, now the negative charge is accumulated. It is connected to a battery negative terminal, which means that the anode is at lower potential than the cathode. If anode is at lower potential than cathode, then there would be an electrostatic repulsion force between anode and the ejected electrons. If the electrons are emitted from plate P from cathode because of the incidence of photons, the electrons would try to go towards Q, anode, but electron will push the electrons backwards. This will try to go towards anode, but anode will try to push these electrons backwards because of the electrostatic repulsion force. But despite having lower potential on plate Q with respect to plate P, it was observed that some of the electrons could reach plate Q by overcoming this electrostatic repulsion force, which confirmed that the ejected electrons have acquired some kinetic energy. So by spending that kinetic energy, they have overcome this electrostatic repulsion force exerted by the lower potential on these electrons and able to reach plate Q. And photoelectric current is still flowing in the same direction, because electron flow and photoelectric current flow should be opposite to each other. The direction of photoelectric current is always opposite to the direction of photoelectrons. So even in this case also the photoelectric current direction is in the same way. But how it is possible? It is possible only when kinetic energy is acquired by the ejected electron. Now what we do? Keep increasing the negative potential, the lower potential, keep increasing the lower potential on plate Q with respect to plate P. Then what would happen? At a particular value of lower potential on plate Q, anode, even the maximum kinetic energy electron would stop reaching plate Q, and no electron is reaching plate Q at that particular value of potential. And if no electron is reaching to anode, then no deflection is observed in the galvanometer, no photoelectric current is flowing through the circuit, which means that photoelectric current drops to zero at a particular value of stopping potential on plate which is equal to the negative potential on plate Q. potential at which the potential value on plate Q, which stops the flow of photoelectrons, or which reduces the photoelectric current to zero, is called as stopping potential. It is denoted with V naught. This is also called as retarding potential or cutoff potential. What is stopping potential? Which is the potential, the negative potential on plate Q with respect to plate P at which photoelectric current drops to zero. So at V naught, I is equal to 0. So what could we observe? For the lower negative potential on plate Q with respect to plate P, some of the photoelectrons could reach anode plate Q by spending the which confirmed that some kinetic energy has been acquired by the ejected electron, and they could reach plate Q by spending that kinetic energy. And if the negative potential on plate Q is further increased at a particular value of potential which is equal to stopping potential V naught, even the electron having maximum kinetic energy was also stopped in reaching plate Q, which means that photoelectric current drops to 0. So then what is the formula for stopping potential? The stopping potential formula can be easily derived by using Einstein photoelectric equation as well as a simple understanding of this electron movement between P and Q. So what is happening when the electron is ejected from P? Electron ejected from P with K maximum, for example, and after reaching Q, K max, its kinetic energy is 0 because it is spending its kinetic energy to reach Q, and the potential dropped, dropped to V naught from P to Q, for example. Then what happens? Because of the negative potential on plate Q, the electrons which are trying to move from plate P to plate Q is experiencing an electrostatic repulsion force, and this electron has to do some work against that electrostatic repulsion force to reach Q. And that work done by electron in reaching plate Q is EV naught, the negative work done, because it is a negative charge which is moving towards plate Q. The work done is minus EV naught. And from work energy theorem, from work energy theorem, work done is equal to delta K, the difference between kinetic energies. What is the difference between kinetic energy? The initial kinetic energy is K maximum, the final kinetic energy is 0. So 0 minus K maximum, final minus initial, which means that we have minus EV naught equal to minus K maximum, and EV naught is equal to K maximum, and V naught equal to K maximum by E. This is the formula for stopping potential. V naught depends on the kinetic energy of the particle, ejected electron, where E is the charge of that electron. So this is the formula for stopping potential. Now we will see some observations based on the points that we have discussed. Let us try to draw a graph between photoelectric current I on the y-axis against the potential difference between plate Q and plate P on the x-axis. When the positive potential is applied on the plate Q, then because of the electrostatic attraction force between electrons and the positive potential, the higher potential with respect to plate P, the electrons are easily attracted towards plate anode, plate Q, and photoelectric current will increase. The photoelectric current will increase, and after some time, even if you increase the positive potential on plate Q, would result in no increase in photoelectric current, because all the electrons which were emitted were already collected by anode, which reaches a saturation value like this, saturation current. Now if you apply negative potential to this plate Q as shown in this picture, and keep increasing that negative potential, at a particular value of negative potential of plate Q, the photoelectric current drops to 0, which is called stopping potential. This is what we have discussed till now, and I am trying to put it in a graphical way. Right? So if you increase the intensity, for example, if this is the curve for high intensity of light. Now if you increase the intensity of light, what would happen? Intensity of light would increase the number of photons. If number of photons are increased, the number of electrons emitted from the photometal is increased. If number of electrons are increased, then photoelectric current will increase. And in that case, for I equal to 2I, for 2I, the photoelectric current will increase. But when you have negative potential on plate Q, what we could observe is this. The stopping potential for the increase in intensity of light is also same, which means that stopping potential is independent of intensity. Independence of intensity of light. Stopping potential is independent of intensity of light. What does that mean? With the increase in intensity of potential, The number of photons increased, number of electrons increased, but the energy of each photon is not increased. If energy of each photon is not increased, the kinetic energy acquired by the electron will not increase. If kinetic energy of the acquired by the electron is not increased, then stopping potential will not increase. The stopping potential is a function of maximum kinetic energy. We can also see this like K maximum equal to E minus W, or EV naught equal to E minus W. V naught is a function of EV naught equal to H nu minus H nu naught. V naught depends on what? V naught depends on nu or lambda, frequency of the photon or wavelength of photon, or you can say energy. The first, and V naught depends on work function, this one. Stopping potential depends on frequency of photon, wavelength of photon, or work function of metallic surface, but it is independent of intensity of light. The increase in intensity of light will help to increase the number of electrons ejected from metal surface, but the energy of the photon will remain same, and kinetic energy acquired by the electron would remain same, and hence whatever the intensity that you are allowing to fall on metal plate, the stopping potential would remain same. This is one important observation. Now we see as I said, stopping potential is function of frequency. It is depending on the frequency. Now if the same graph is drawn like this is VQP, this is photoelectric current I, and for a given metallic surface, let me take, and for constant intensity of light. See here, the frequency of light is not changed, because if that is changed, then stopping potential will change. So that here frequency of light is constant. And see, if intensity of light is constant, for example it is I, and frequency is now changing. Here frequency is kept constant, intensity is changed, stopping potential was constant. But here what I am doing, intensity of light is kept constant for a given metallic surface. So these two graphs are for a given metallic surface, for same. Remember this. Now if frequency is increased, what? V naught is proportional to nu. From here, it depends on the frequency of incident photon. If frequency is increased, then what will happen is, for a lower frequency, this is minus V naught 1 for nu 1, and for higher frequency of incident light, the stopping potential will increase because it is proportional to frequency. This is V for nu 2, and nu 2 is greater than nu 1. So what is the conclusion? With increase in frequency of incident light, stopping potential is increased. It is actually a linear function of frequency of incident light. We can also draw another graph for K maximum versus frequency, or stopping potential versus frequency. The graph between K maximum versus frequency, because K maximum is what? K maximum is h nu minus h nu naught. EV naught is equal to h nu minus h nu naught. So using this I can draw this. If this is like y equal to mx minus c, where m is h, this will be like this, K maximum versus frequency. What will happen if nu is increased? K maximum will increase. But because of this intercept, which is equal to work function, let me take it here. So this will be W1, this will be W2, this point, and this will be nu naught 1, this will be nu naught 2. The K maximum is not there until a certain value of threshold frequency 1, which means that there exists a minimum threshold frequency for the incident light to cause the photoelectron emission. The same graph also can be drawn for V naught versus nu, because K maximum is EV naught. V naught can be written as h nu by E minus h nu naught by E. The graph will be like this if it is V naught and nu instead of K maximum. The same graph you will see. This is nu naught 1, this is nu naught 2, this will be W1 again, but here it is h nu naught by E, h nu naught 1 by E, can say. And this W2 is, this one is W2, which is W h nu naught 2 by E, and the slope of this is h nu, h by E is the slope. What is the slope here? Here slope is h. Here slope is h, y equal to mx minus c, m is h, x is nu. They are similar kinds of graphs. You can observe using these two equations. K maximum is replaced by V naught if E is going towards right side. What we could observe from these two pictures is kinetic energy, the maximum kinetic energy is a function of frequency of incident light, or stopping potential is a function of frequency of incident light, and up to certain value of frequency there is no stopping potential, photoelectric current is still zero, no photoelectrons are emitted. So threshold frequency existence proof is this. There is no V naught until a certain value of threshold frequency. So these are very, very important graphs. So by using all these graphs or all these discussions that we had till now, we can write few characteristics of this photoelectric effect. Let us try to write those characteristics of photoelectric effect from these observations. Characteristics of photoelectric effect. What is the first characteristic we can say? On increasing intensity of light, number of photons increases, which increases number of electrons number of emitted electrons. This is one of the characteristics. If intensity is increased, number of photons increased, number of photoelectrons ejected increased, and photoelectric current increases. Photoelectric current increases. And point number 2, there exists a certain minimum frequency which is threshold frequency mu naught, below which photoelectron emission is not possible. This is also we have observed. And number 3, stopping potential V naught is independent of intensity of light. But depends on frequency of light. Means photon here. And from this we can also draw another conclusion that the K maximum, the maximum kinetic energy acquired by the electron depends on frequency of light, but not on intensity of light. And the next characteristics we can write: the minimum energy required, which is work function, minimum energy required for electron emission is property of metallic surface. And the next characteristics is emission of electron is spontaneous. It can emit the electron immediately after the fall of photon on the metal surface, within a time less than 10 power minus 8 seconds. We can assume it as a spontaneous emission. And the next characteristics is emission of electron from metal surface is independent of temperature of metal. Temperature of metal surface, which means that it is different from thermionic emission. So this is how we could understand the explanation given by the Einstein for the photoelectric effect by assuming the particle nature of light, where the initial discoverers of this photoelectric effect failed to explain this with the assumption of wave theory of light. By assuming particle nature of light, Einstein could successfully explain it And we have seen different characteristics of the photoelectric effect and his Einstein photoelectric equation based on it. We have seen different graphs where intensity, if intensity is increased, stopping potential is remaining constant for a given value of frequency of incident photon and for a given metallic surface. And for a given metallic surface, for a given intensity of incident light, if frequency of the incident photon is increased, stopping potential was increased. And if you increase the incident photon frequency, then the maximum kinetic energy acquired by the photon is increased. And up to a certain value of the frequency of incident photon, there is no maximum kinetic energy acquired by the photon, or there is no stopping potential, which means at zero potential itself the photoelectric current is zero, which means that there is no photoelectron is emitted up to a certain value of threshold frequency of incident photon, which is called as threshold frequency. So all these were thoroughly discussed in this lecture.